Hello, and today I want to talk about the dilemma of whether or not I should stay in the UK. As you're well aware, or probably well aware, the UK is going down the pan. It's no longer the great country it once was, and it is encroaching the classification of a failed state. I'd argue that it already is a failed state. It's just that because it was such a great, prosperous place to live, it takes a long time for them to destroy it completely. Some areas in the UK have been destroyed completely, irreversibly. They're no longer England, or they're no longer Scotland, and they're no longer Wales. Now, what is a much lesser known fact is that this has all been done intentionally by a very small group of people that do unfortunately control most of the world. And because of this, the UK has been getting worse every year, and it will continue to get worse every year, and there's no escaping it. It's guaranteed that is the future of the country until it looks something like present day South Africa, or what was once Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe. So a third world mess where the white population is murdered on a regular basis. The ideas of your houses having metal bars on the windows and barbed wire on the walls, that will be a common sight. So with the future looking so bleak, you may ask, why is it such a dilemma to leave the UK? It should be an easy decision. Well, you have to think about what would I be going towards and what would I be leaving behind, because it's not such an easy decision to make. Now, there are actually very few countries which would be worth going to, which is a crazy thing to say. It's the whole world, a whole planet, and there's not really anywhere to go when you actually look deep into it. So the Anglosphere, that's the first look for where I'd look into going, because being English, I only speak English. But the Anglosphere, again, is controlled by this same group of people that wants me extinct. And therefore they have the same problems in these nations. I could look at Canada, but Canada isn't the same place it once was, and it's changing very, very rapidly. It's becoming more like India every day. And you say, oh, well, what's the problem with India? Well, look at India. It's a shithole. It's a horrible place to be. And if you argue against that, you're just lying. You're lying to yourself and you're lying to everyone else. India is a horrible country. Okay, what about the States? Well, it's got crazy work ethic. You're working all the time, long hours, very few holidays, no support network there if it all goes wrong, controlled by the same group of people, very diverse. It's like someone has put Mentos and Coke together and has closed the lid. It's going to explode there. You can feel it. And Australia, same problems with the UK. The only difference is it's a bigger place. So all three of those countries are bigger places. So you can leave in the countryside to try and avoid it, but you won't be able to avoid it for long. In New Zealand, you don't hear much about things from New Zealand, and to me that's a good sign. It's just, in reality, you know, once you get there, it's going to be expensive to live there, and it's going to be just as woke, because what I have heard is that it is very woke. On the plus side, it does have beautiful landscapes. It's very sparsely populated, so nice areas to escape to, especially the South Island. So there are positives, but it's the other side of the world. You know, it's about as far away as the UK as you can get, and that means communicating and seeing your family is incredibly difficult. You might be able to see them once a year if you're lucky, you know, alternate which years they go to New Zealand, you go back home. But, you know, on the telephone, it's going to be difficult. 12-hour time difference, and it's tricky. So if you look outside the Anglosphere, you first look Western Europe. Now, Western Europe is facing the exact same problems as the UK. Mass migration, cost of living going up, you know, job security going down, it's becoming more and more unsafe. And it's like, okay, well, if you've got the exact same problems as you have in the UK, why would you leave the UK? You'll be going to a place where you can't speak the language, and you've got to relearn all the customs. So, you may have better weather, but there's more to it than just the weather. Okay, so if it's not Western Europe, Eastern Europe, they're not degrading anywhere near as fast. It's just that their starting point isn't exactly high either. I mean, it's not third world, but it's not first world. Out of Eastern Europe, probably Poland would be the most attractive, but that's a very difficult language to learn, a very, very difficult language to learn. And also still controlled by the same people. It's just, how long will it take before the rot really takes place there? So if it's not Eastern Europe, the only other place I could think of possibly is South America. Low standard of living, or lower, and a lot of people want to escape there as well. So if they want to escape, it doesn't exactly make it like a place I'd want to go to, which is crazy. It's a huge continent, but you know, it's far away, and again, most of it's controlled by the same people. So what would you be escaping, really? And you know, just being able to only speak English, learning languages, especially when I'm nearly 30 years old, is going to be tricky. I have spent a couple of years on Duolingo learning Spanish, so that's why South America seems like a potential place to go, but I can't really speak it very well. I just know the basics, and pronouncing the words is extremely difficult for me, so I don't know if I'd ever be able to speak it properly. And that makes things difficult to adapt to in your new country. So then what would I be leaving behind? Well, I'd be leaving everything I know, and I'd be leaving my family, which means that they'd have one less person that they can count on for help, especially in the future when things get trickier. It's nice to have as many people in your social network as possible. And when I think of it like that, I personally don't even want to be alive. I think about that every day, and it's only the idea of my family that keeps me here, what I'd leave behind, or the suffering I'd leave behind. So if I'm not even here to be there for them anyway, it's like, well, why would I even be here on earth at all? It just, I'd be leaving the same thing behind either way, so I just may as well not be here. And I can't think like that, not yet anyway. So if I'm leaving them behind, then obviously when I go to the new country to live in, I'm going to be by myself. I'm not going to have anyone there that can show me how life works, because every country has their own culture, obviously, and their own customs of how they do things. And you know, it's like, how is your rubbish collected, or how do you make sure a car is road legal? In the UK, you need insurance, tax, and MOT, which is to make sure that it's safe to actually drive on the roads. Not every country has these things, so, or if they have taxes, you know, they might, or an insurance, it might work different. I know in the States from watching YouTube videos, you know, that they have to keep their paperwork in the car. Well, we don't do that in the UK. So there's lots of different customs that you've got to get used to when you go over there. And if you don't have anyone there that can teach you these things, it's extremely difficult to learn them by yourself, and even more difficult if you can't even speak the language. So yeah, so it's just not easy. And I have moved away from my hometown. I've moved 3.5 hours up north within the same country. And I've noticed that I'm isolated here. I had a big social network for me back at home. I had family and friends. That's where I spent, you know, over 25 years building. Here, 3 years later, I've got some connections, but nowhere near the connections I used to have. And that's with me being able to speak the language, understanding the culture. The culture's ever so slightly different, but it's still the same country, and you know, it's fundamentally the same. So in a different country, that's going to be incredibly hard to adapt to. And I'm going to be isolated for a very long time. So also, when I go, it's not just the customs of how things are. It is the culture, the climate, the cuisine, the laws in general that I'm going to have to adapt to. And it takes a lot of time. You can't guarantee you'd like everything about it. You know, like time zones, or like if you were to move to Norway, for example. I mean, Norway seems like a beautiful place to live until you start thinking about the winters. And the winters over there, incredibly long nights. I mean, it's bad enough in the UK, but there it's even more extreme. So you almost have no daylight at all. And it's things like these that you don't really think about when you look at countries on a map. But actually living there, this can be really tricky to get used to. You know, very hot, humid summers might be a complete game changer for some, including myself. Then the other thing is, I don't have many skills like that I can write down on my CV, which means that the job selection that I'd be looking at would be very small, low-skilled jobs, and they're going to be boring, not ones I enjoy. You know, the job that I have now is very niche, that works in nature. I definitely can't guarantee that I'd work be able to get a job like that elsewhere, just because they're hard to get to, like hard to get into, and the nature's going to be completely different. The whole ecosystem I'd have to relearn, and that will take a long time, on top of learning the language and everything. So that one's out of the question. I do have carpentry experience, but if you think about it, carpentry is not exactly a high-paying job. So if I go to a country that is second world or third world, then I'm going to have very, very poor wages. And that means that my standard of living is going to be even less than what it already is now. And why would I leave everything behind to go to a place with a worse standard of living? So it's almost like, even if I wanted to leave, I actually couldn't anyway. And if I could, the other thing is watching out for scams. And like I said, like, it's not my blood family, but step family members. They moved to Turkey, had a lot of money, had a beautiful house in Turkey, tried to start a business, and they got well and truly scammed out of every penny they had, basically. And they were set for life, you know. They retired over there in their 50s, and they didn't have to work. They were well off. They had a lot of money, and now they're back in the UK, back working, living on a council estate. They got scammed out of everything. So I know it's possible that you can get scammed if you don't understand how things work, and you don't understand the culture and what those people will try to do, because people do take advantage of foreigners, no matter who you are, no matter where you go. And if you're a foreigner, people will take advantage of you. Unless if you're a foreigner moving to the first world, then you seem to take advantage of everyone else. But I digress. So, in conclusion, the grass is always greener elsewhere, or so it seems. And the reality of actually living there would sink in pretty quickly, and you'd think, no, this isn't easier. This isn't an easier way of living. And because of that, I just need to accept the fact that life is not going to be enjoyable for me no matter where I live. And if that's the case, I may as well stay where I am and benefit the people that I love and those who love me as much as I can by just being here for them. Now, my advice for someone else would be, unless you have a job that can be done online, you know, a job that can be done remotely, again, there's not much point in leaving your country, especially to go to a third world country. You know, but if you do have an online job, or where you can make money online, then yes, go to a country where the costs to live there are lower, because you will have a higher standard of living, and it only makes sense to do that. And if you can do that, maybe you can build something where you could possibly bring more family members over there and essentially migrate your whole family to have a better standard of living elsewhere. But if you can't do that, then you need to stay with your community in your place of origin, and really try and work together to build something and to keep something, because the future is bleak, and you need to work together to buy assets and keep hold of those assets, and remove this individualistic mindset that they have installed upon us ever since the Second World War. So yeah, that has been my expression of depression for today. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Take care.